Welcome to Parenting by Dummies, an unexpected podcast.
Today's episode, surprise, you're pregnant.
And she's just rolling around. Look at her.
Yeah, we're looking at the baby
monitor. We're on the baby monitor right now. She's, look at her go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Parenting by Dummies. You're not the dummies. This isn't for dummies. We're the dummies. So it's by dummies. Real creative. Real creative and fun title there.
Big dummies.
We're big. Yeah, so this is a podcast about our experiences with having an unexpected pregnancy during college. My name is Cole. I just graduated college. I make YouTube videos.
And my name is Fabiola. I am still in college and am currently just a student.
So the structure of today's episode is going to be, we want to talk about the pregnancy. We want to talk about the important discussions that the couple needs to have. We want to talk about what it was like being pregnant, especially early pregnancy, like, tips, talk about taking prenatals, eating as much as you can. This episode is just going to be largely focused on the experience of the pregnancy, like starting at the beginning. So we found out in September of 2020 that we were pregnant, and we have had the baby now, and we had a lot of care and a lot of support from family and friends and a lot of people pushing us in the right direction so that we made all of the right choices. There wasn't really anything that I feel like we had to learn the hard way. Mm-hmm. Save a couple things. And we figured with this podcast, we would like to spread that knowledge out to the public and people that might not have had the opportunities we had. That's where this is coming from. And we're just going to jump right into it, right, Fabi?
Yeah. So I am going to speak about my personal experience when I found out I was pregnant. Most times when a woman suspects she is pregnant, she misses her period, right? And then she goes and gets a test, is freaking out, right? Me, I completely did not see this coming whatsoever. Why? Because I was on birth control.
Yeah, we were on the shot, which, by the way, is supposed to be one of the top effective ones. So that was great.
I'm not gonna get into the details of what could have happened. For the most part, that birth control was effective for me. I think the clinic messed up somehow in the scheduling. Anyways, the way I found out was I was going in for my routine. It's time to get the next shot after 3 months. And it's procedure that, you do a pregnancy test before you do anything to your body that has to do with reproduction. So I took a test at the Planned Parenthood, and I was just waiting for my results in the room. The nurse was like, okay, take a seat. We'll be right back with your results. If everything is, negative, then we'll proceed with your birth control. I'm waiting there, and a little longer than usual, but I wasn't thinking anything of it. And then the nurse comes in, and she's just kind of quiet, serious. She just leans on the wall next to the door, hands behind her back, and looks at me and says, your test came out positive. And that's when everything just kind of paused. The whole world stopped turning for me. And in the movies when there's a scene and the camera zooms all the way out, but it's in front of your face.
Yeah, like in Jaws when he's sitting in his chair and the kid gets attacked by the shark.
Yeah. It was like that. It's just
it's called a dolly zoom. Sorry.
Exactly. Yes.
Sorry.
Anyways, that's exactly what it felt like, but in real life. It was happening. And it also felt like the room was spinning. I was just like, no way. That's what my mind said at first. It was like, no way. How? So I was kind of freaking out. And then the nurse was not sure to tell me congrats or not, because obviously I was young and not ready for it, which was the point of the appointment for the birth control. The first thing I decided to do was talk to someone. And I felt like my partner had the right to be the first person I tell, obviously, because it's a 2-person thing. So
I was sitting in my room. It was, I think, a couple days after your birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, I was sitting in my room.
It was 2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks after your birthday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So I was sitting in my room, and I think I had just woken up because I had a late night before. And I knew that Fabi was going to the clinic. I knew she was getting checked up. So when she got back, I let her in, and I was like, "Hey, welcome. You know, it's totally normal day
for you."
Yeah, for me. And then, then she started crying, and I was like, "What?" And I had thought that I'm trying to remember what I thought. I thought that there was something going on with like
COVID,
your family, or I thought you had COVID or something. Yeah, because this was like kind of. We were about 6 months into the fear, the pandemic, yeah. And so I thought that something was severely wrong. And then I think all you could say was like...
The first thing I said was, it's positive, or I was positive.
Yeah, and I thought it was positive for COVID.
Yeah. And because I knew you knew that I was at the clinic.
Yeah.
And I guess I thought you would have guessed already. Like... I'm positive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not that bright. But yeah, so it
Well, also because of fear and panic, that's like the last resort thought that you would go to.
Yeah. And so Fabi got out the paperwork and was like, "No, it was a positive pregnancy test." And we've taken pregnancy tests a couple times throughout our relationship. And there's always like that terror right before
the pregnancy scare.
Before the scare, yeah. There's always that terror right before you get the test. We didn't really have I don't think we really had any scares, really.
Only a few. You know. Anyways.
But anyway, so the first thing I remember saying was like I sat back to think for a second, and the first thing I said was, "Well, I'm gonna stay." That's the first thing. If you're in this situation where you're having you're going to have a baby, or you find out you're pregnant, is you and your partner need to sit down and talk about what you're going to do. First off, you need to decide, are we going to get married? Are we going to stay together? Are you going to dip? I think that...
Hold on.
What?
We can rephrase that. There's no shame in co-parenting, because sometimes you just have a one-night thing with someone that you didn't mean to.
Right, that's what I said. That's basically what I said,
but there's like co-parenting where like you're both involved but you're not together. There's also pro-choice, so if you don't want to keep the pregnancy.
Oh, that's a big one too.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the first thing you talk about is like, are we going to keep this?
Yeah.
Are we going to keep it, go through with it? Hopefully, before your relationship, you've had that talk, or before you engage in anything, you've had that talk about, listen, if this goes south, if I get pregnant, I want you to know that I'm going to keep it, or I'm not going to keep it. Not trying to stir any pro-choice versus pro-life arguments. You together need to decide and know ahead of time what the plan is, so that there's not as much arguing.
Right.
Over it. That was something that we had kind of established. So while we still had that discussion, we knew ahead of time that was how each other felt.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about, are we going to stay together? Are we going to be apart? What's the plan? Because I think if you're going to be separate, if you're going to be separate, you need to decide that from the start. Because I do know of, men and women who have gotten into that situation, and the boyfriend has just decided like halfway through that, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. This is getting to be too much work or something. And it's harder when you're set up together and then someone abandons halfway through.
Yeah.
So if someone is going to not be there for it, you should decide early on so that you can gather your resources and your people and know how you're going to be living out this pregnancy to have your plan. So after having that discussion, we hunkered down and just got ready for it. So, Fabi, why don't we tell me about what early pregnancy was like?
So, before I even knew I was pregnant, I was already feeling the symptoms, but I didn't know that my symptoms that I was having were associated with pregnancy, because never did I know, it's not really talked about, that extreme sleepiness is part of that. You know, in movies and stuff, you hear, oh, you throw up, oh, she threw up, she's pregnant, you know, or she misses the period, she's pregnant. Because I was on the shot, I wasn't already having a period. So the symptom that I was feeling already right away, which was a red flag that I completely ignored, I thought I was just really tired, was extreme sleepiness. Like, extremely. I had to lay down for a nap because my body was just not doing it anymore. So, I remember being at IKEA, and we're like, I'm pushing the cart and I'm like so tired. I'm leaning on the cart, like my whole body's just on. I'm like, I gotta go home. I'm tired. So later on I found out, and I was like, oh. So big naps. That's a big thing. If you're feeling tired, go to sleep, because your body is growing a whole new life, and it's rebuilding. It's building all of these cells from scratch. It's like when you're sick, you know? When you go to sleep and rest, you're letting your body create those new cells to heal itself again and fight whatever's going on. So sleeping is a good thing. If you can sleep, right? Mm-hmm. My mom was generous enough to let me sleep, and I slept, Cole. I think I slept through the whole first trimester. It was a lot of naps. I still continued college. I told myself I am not like stopping, but
that's actually a big theme for this podcast too, is like getting it done with school at the same time, because it was my last 2 semesters basically while we were pregnant, and Fabi was in class 2 while pregnant, and so we had to not only, you know, like she was at work and going to class too while this was going on, and for the first trimester, it's relatively,
you could still do, you know, normal stuff.
By the way, for the guys, really early on, it's pretty hands-off for the guy. We should also know, so we weren't living together at first.
No.
We moved in during the 3rd trimester?
Yes, second.
Or during the 2nd trimester. So for the first trimester or so, it's pretty hands-off for the guy. I mean, you don't want to be hands-off, but there's not too much we had to do. Fabi is still able to walk to class and drive herself places, and you know, and carry her own backpack and all that.
I will say, though, I did ask for a lot of, like, favors concerning cravings, pickles, and...
My grocery list was a little bigger for those few months. Fabi went on a pickle-eating spree, and it's crazy because before she's like, I hate pickles. And you were just like, I love pickles.
And then I hated them again.
And then now you hate them again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Also, I loved pom-pom juice before I was pregnant. I took a sip while I was pregnant, and I was like, what the...
It changes, like, your taste.
I was so upset because I was like, why? I love this stuff. I don't know what happened. Oh, my sense of smell. Let me tell you about that. I could smell when you drank the night before. If you had alcohol in your system, I could smell it. It's that kind of superhero power, and it made me nauseous. If the apartment smelled like there was a party and there was alcohol around, I felt so nauseated. I could not be in that apartment.
That's pretty crazy.
I remember.
I don't think I knew that.
It smelled so gross to me, and no one else smelled it except for me. I was just like, ugh.
Was that when you insisted on like cleaning, like deep cleaning?
Yes, and
my apartment?
I ran to your room because obviously no one's gonna party over there.
Oh yeah.
But also I could smell it on your breath if you drank too.
Yeah.
Like my sister, I remember smelling her too, and she had this scent. And this superpower smell only happened in the first trimester, and then I got it again after the baby was born, but only for a little bit.
That's really crazy. So let's see. Let's talk more in depth about going to school during the first trimester.
Okay.
For the students out there, what was it like? What were the routines that we had to develop? What were things that were largely the same for you, but also different?
Right. So same as being honest with my partner. I also wanted to be honest with my employers because I was pretty close with them, and also because I wanted to keep my job after the pregnancy. I wanted to let them know, hey, this is coming, and we're gonna need to prepare for certain accommodations. Like maybe my shifts later on in the 3rd trimester, or the 2nd trimester will have to be shorter because of walking, or maybe I need to work from home, completely from home on the 3rd trimester because of big belly, hard to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Which they really did, like, having a baby during the pandemic when everything was on shutdown, it kind of worked for me because of everything being at home. No one had to see me really, so no one knew I was pregnant until we announced it. The only people that knew were the really close friends and companions from school.
I remember me personally, I didn't really want to tell like anyone early on. I pretty much held my tongue except to like my like direct close friends.
Right.
Early on hearing that for the guys' side of things, early on dealing with like the first couple weeks of it and stuff was really tough, I think, because there is an ounce of you have to let go of a lot of stuff, mostly of fear. Like once you find out that you're having a baby and the baby's definitely coming, there's a lot of like making peace with it. You're like things aren't things aren't going to be the same as they were. They're a little bit difficult, a little bit more difficult. And it's tough. It's really tough and it's really scary. So for like the first couple days after me and Fabi talked, I think, right? You were at home and I was at my house.
We were not separated in the relationship. We were just physically separated for a bit, took some time off to let things settle in.
I talked with my dad and a couple close friends, and Fabi talked with her family. There's a period that you have to give some time to yourself. Like I think I remember I had to like take off work. I think I asked off or I got a shift covered or something like that because I just needed to sit for a little bit and sit still.
I think also we did like a whole road trip after being apart from each other. We went to Austin.
We got together. We drove to San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
We drove down to San Antonio, and on the ride we had a lot of talks. That was where we did our discussion about keeping or other options for the baby.
That's where a lot of our talking happened. But then after that, I feel like we spent that whole day together and we let it settle in a little bit. We had ice cream in that one area.
That's right, at the quarry.
And my stomach wasn't even showing it, and I kept holding it.
You were really nauseous on the drive.
Oh, yes, nauseousness. That's a thing. But I never really throw up except for one time that I took a prenatal without eating. And it was a prenatal that it was new to me. After that one time I threw up, I stopped taking that kind. Also, there's a bunch of different types.
When did you start taking prenatals? How went into the pregnancy?
As soon as I could get my hands on some. And it's funny because there's prenatals that are like all in one, and then there's like some vitamins that are just that have DHA, which is for brain development, and there's other vitamins that are like for something else, and it's like it was just a lot of options. And I just went for the first thing I saw. I went to the vitamin shop, just grabbed the first thing. And then later I found out, this isn't the all-in-one. I need folic acid. Again, consult your OB. But that's what I was looking for. And so I found some gummies that I liked from Target, and I felt like I could digest those better than a pill with no flavor. So. And
you mentioned your OB.
Yeah. Like I don't know if I mentioned this already, but you want to get an OB. Let me see.
And that's an OBGYN.
Right.
That's the doctor that is responsible for keeping up with your
pregnancy and who will deliver your baby if circumstances line up. Because my OB, unfortunately, wasn't able to be there for the delivery of my baby. She had basically, it lined up that she had to do a bunch of surgeries the week that my baby was due, so she wasn't able to be there. But there were other OBs at the hospital that she worked with, her colleagues, and they were great. They still helped me out.
But in the event that they are going to deliver your baby, definitely get with them. Because Fabi would go to OB appointments, I think, every 2 weeks.
It depends.
Or was it twice a month?
So
that's the same thing.
No, because like in the beginning, they'll see you they'll do the ultrasound to confirm you're pregnant, and then they're like, okay, we'll see you 2 months from now, and then after that, it was like another 2 months from now, and then after a certain amount of weeks, it's every 2 weeks, and then after the 38 weeks, so there's 40 total weeks. and there was a certain week where they wanted to see you every week after that because you were just getting really close, and they just wanted to keep an eye on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely get an OB. A lot of stuff like taking the right prenatals and good foods and stuff like that for the first trimester we got from our OBGYN.
Yeah, she recommended exercise, like whatever amount of exercise I was doing, keep doing it. Like if you were lifting weights, if you were already doing it, you could still keep doing it, depending on how like strong your body was. If you didn't lift weights before, definitely don't do it when you're pregnant, because it's like your body wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
And so you're just going to put stress on it.
Yeah, I think it was okay to lift some stuff in the first couple weeks, but like as soon as your body starts shifting and growing the little as soon as you know there's a little bean in there, you don't want to be putting any kind of stress on like your lower body. So let's see. So for first trimester, we talked about you get your OB and taking prenatals. Before we move on to talking about the second trimester, is there anything else that you want to mention?
During the first trimester, it's funny because after you have your baby, you forget all this stuff. Kind of, I'm like picking up pieces of my memory. So yeah, prenatal sleepiness, nausea, which that goes away. Thankfully, that'll go away.
How long did the nausea last?
The whole first trimester.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as I hit the second trimester, I was
So what was your main symptom for the first trimester? Would you say the nausea? Was that like the main theme of your first trimester?
And sleepiness.
So
I was sleeping all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Sleepiness and nausea. Okay. So that's what you incoming parents have to expect.
Well,
it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Some women have it worse. Some women have it way easier. It's totally like unpredictable.
Yeah. So, going into the second trimester now, right? So this would be, when was our second? Was that into December? September, October, November.
Trimester's like
the 3 months. So September, October, November.
Roughly.
So into about December in the winter time, second trimester begins.
Right.
So for us, a big deal with the second trimester was like as we got closer, Fabi wanted to move in like right off the bat. I wanted to have a little.
That's because of school. School's going to start. I wanted to be situated. I didn't want to be in a crowded house with my family and have a big belly, you know?
Yeah. So Fabi wanted to move in off the bat. I wanted a little bit of time. So Can
we pause? She's getting fussy. We'll put a pin in it. We're talking about second trimester.
Yeah, baby's getting restless, so we if I ever have an ad break, if I ever get ads, we'll put an ad here. Okay, so we are back from the break, and now we're going to talk about the second trimester.
Right. So in the second trimester is when things were finally starting to feel a bit more stable. I wasn't feeling as nauseous or sleepy, so actually a lot of my energy came back, and I was like, wow, I do not feel like a zombie right now. I'm feeling good. It's actually the trimester where I was feeling like I had that pregnancy glow. I was feeling good, and I was also developing sort of a waddle. I was walking like a duck.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
I would do it too.
You would just mainly make fun of me.
I wasn't making fun of it so you didn't feel so alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the second trimester, this is when, because of the energy, it's not nesting quite yet, but it's almost like nesting is when I started to really focus on, okay, what do I really need to get for the baby? And I was looking at registries and things like that. We will get into the nitty-gritty of a baby registry in the next episode.
Most of the third trimester, baby registry and the birth, those are going to have episodes dedicated to themselves. This one is mainly just about finding out and early pregnancy. I think, the actual pregnancy experience was just about the same as most of the other pregnancy things you find out there. So there's a lot better stuff to look for the actual pregnancy bit, I think, because we're making this behind. We don't have as good of there's podcasts out there with a play-by-play.
Right.
But this is mostly, dedicated to how we handled the having the baby part,
Mm-hmm.
the aspects outside of pregnancy. The pregnancy stuff is largely the same.
Yeah, and in the second trimester, as far as school and work were concerned, I also felt more motivated in school because this baby was coming sooner. So I did a fall semester during my first trimester of pregnancy, and that's when I was really sleepy. My grades were not that solid that semester. It was really hard for me to keep up, but I did, and I got some credits, which is great. So I kept going. Second trimester, it was spring semester of my third year of college, and since my energy is back and running, I was feeling more motivated and more inspired. Physically, things were getting a little bit harder. The baby's growing, pushing up in your lungs, so it was a little harder to breathe. But it felt like a good time at the moment. So I think that's all I have for the second trimester.
There were, that one, it did start to get harder towards the end for her to do a lot of walking, right? That got a little tough, right? There were more times where you were asking me to pick you up, and I was offering to drop you off at class when you left my apartment instead of you walking and taking your backpack for you and stuff like that.
Yeah, I really, it was getting physically hard. And
about halfway through, close to the end of that's when the bump showed up. I think the bump showed up pretty much when we moved in together.
Yeah, the bump showed in the second trimester, not in the beginning of it, but more towards the half.
And to get, if anyone's struggling with the apartment situation, I think the easiest way that we found is to sublease your apartment if you've got one and get another one. So instead of breaking your lease and having to pay extra, we found somebody, a friend of mine, who wanted to move into my room at our apartment. And so they took that, and then we found a nice townhome where we're currently recording this. And that was kind of that's been our living situation for the time being. We would like to get a house, though, as the baby gets bigger. But it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good so far.
So far, especially since I'm finishing up college. I should be graduating here soon.
Yes.
In the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So, third trimester. This is when my OB told me to start really getting ready. Start looking for a pediatrician. What else? Start looking for a hospital. Register for the hospital. Things were getting kind of serious. And again, we're going to go through this more later.
Now the stairs were a pain in the butt. Luckily, now this place, instead of the old place was like a big complex, this is more single townhomes. So we're able to walk right out to the car instead of having to go up and down stairs and down elevators and all that. We had to do the baby registry. We started getting ready for the birth, and we'll cover that stuff.
Baby showers.
But the impact on school got a lot tougher.
Well, my professors were very accommodating. They were very sweet as well and able to work with me. They all gave me incomplete grades, which means I was able to complete my grades later on at a different date, and we all had a contract. There's 2 that I already finished those incompletes, and I got my grades for those. And there's 2 more that I need to finish, which I am looking forward to. This semester for me is going really good so far. Another thing for the third trimester, I got really addicted, and it's just ice.
Chewing ice.
Ice was my
Cole,
biggest
can you go to
craving.
Starbucks and get the ice? Can you get the Sonic ice, Cole? Can you get the Sonic ice?
I need the Sonic ice, Chick-fil-A ice, anything crunchy, man. I had to get my teeth on it because it was just so satisfying, and once I did, I wouldn't sigh in relief. Or it wasn't even a sigh, it was more like a moan in relief.
And the baby started kicking.
Oh yeah.
A lot of kicking from the baby.
Oh, the baby.
A whole lot of kicking. So at this point, for the first basically 2 trimesters, the baby is this thing, and you're getting ultrasounds and stuff like that. But towards the end of the second and going into the third trimester, she really started getting active. So
really active.
We would play music.
Yes.
We'd play music, and she'd recognize the music. We would talk to her, and she would hear our voices. The baby would start kicking a lot, and at first we were concerned. The baby would just be going ham some days, just kicking like a maniac.
It would physically hurt my skin because of the amount of stretching. Lotion, ladies, please wear lotion every day if you want to save your skin. I slacked in the lotion department because of school assignments. I was too busy with school, and I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to put lotion on. Man, those last 3 weeks really took a toll on my skin. I still have those stretch marks. Please use lotion. Even if you think you're not going to need it, just do it. I mean, you're probably going to get stretch marks either way, but you want to prevent it as much as possible and make it hurt as less as possible. So that's my advice there.
The kicking is crazy because the baby starts kicking so hard that you physically see the stomach pushing, the little feet pushing. And we got concerned because the baby was kicking so much, but our OB was able to assure us that the more kicking, the better. A very active baby is a very happy baby.
Exactly.
So much so that she became a little gymnast in there. Which we'll cover because that had implications on the birth.
Yeah. Underwear.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
I have to talk about the underwear.
We have to talk about the third trimester underwear.
There's 2 types of pregnancy underwear. Over the belly and under the belly. And I was like, I think I'm going to do over the belly. That sounds comfortable. It's not tight around my waist. And so I bought a pair. I think 5 pairs, actually. And my belly kept growing and it was getting tighter and tighter, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Over the belly is great if you have a small belly, I think, but it's also unpredictable on how big your belly's gonna grow. So then I went to Amazon and I got under the belly, and it's way better. I felt so much more relief, almost felt like I wasn't wearing underwear at all, because you want clothing out of the way so it doesn't feel tight. You want the big stretchy maternity leggings or just a big extra large t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that's comfy.
So that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you for tuning into the first one. We're a little rough around the edges. This is our first podcast, so I appreciate it. Stick with us. Today we covered those important conversations you need to have when you find out you're having an unexpected pregnancy. We kind of glossed over what it's like to go through the pregnancy with school. We talked about the importance of making sure you get an OBGYN early on. Talked about some prenatal, some underwear stuff, some pretty fun, cool stuff. Now, if you've got any questions or you guys want any further information, you can send that to our Twitter. It's at Parent by Dummies. If you feel like we missed something or, you want a little more clarification, then feel free to let us know. We'll either answer you there or we might, talk about it on the podcast. And tune in next week where we're going to talk about the preparation for baby. So that includes, what to put on a baby registry, how to have a baby shower, that kind of stuff, getting ready for the birth, all of that. And yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And
we'll see you guys next month. Well, you'll hear us next month. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Parenting by Dummies is hosted by Fabiola Ruiz and me, Cole Perrin.
And produced by Alejandra Gavilanes.
With special thanks to Blake Perrin for our theme music.
You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, or whatever platform you like best.
And keep up with us on Twitter at Parent by Dummies.